Hi everyone, welcome to our 27th Erlang tutorial. Today we're going to continue our web application using Chicago Bus framework. Today's screencast is mainly going to be focused on MongoDB and Erlang with the use of the Chicago Bus framework. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is to download MongoDB. So you go down to the MongoDB website and you download. I'm using 64 bits, so I'm going to download the Windows version. Wait for it to come up, open, and you wait for it to download. So when it's done, we simply just extract it to the desktop for the moment. The next step is to download MongoDB Erlang driver. So MongoDB, and should be the first link, and you should see it right on top here, driver download, which is going to take us to a GitHub site. Then we go to releases and zip. We download the latest version, unzip it, and drag it to the desktop. Also, we need to download bson, which should be on the same page as the Erlang driver. So we navigate down, we look for bson Erlang, we click on that, we go to releases, we click on the zip version, the latest version, extract to the desktop, and then that's our downloading done for today. So we just close the rest of them here. So now we have MongoDB Erlang, MongoDB itself, and bson Erlang. The first thing we want to install is MongoDB. So let's go to our root directory and we drag the MongoDB folder in there. I like to personally rename it to MongoDB. And inside the MongoDB, we want to create another folder which is going to hold our data called Mongo data. And then in the bin directory we create a batch file called startmongo and change extension to BAT, and we edit it. In here we just put mongod, this is going to be our launcher, space dash dash db path, database path, and the location of our database, which I was talking about earlier, // mongodb / mongo data, and save. And also we need to set up an environment path. So if we go to computer, right click, properties, and advanced system settings, environment variables, look for path, edit, and we copy and paste the directory of the bin in there. Okay, and close this off. Now to test everything, we open the command prompt, we type in start mongo, and our database is started. The database is now running behind, and let's minimize it. Let's create a database. So we open a new command prompt, we type in mongo, we type in use test uxdb. This is going to be, we create a test ux database, and what we want to do here, first of all, show collections. We have no collection, so let's insert something inside this. For example, db dot collection 1 dot insert two curly braces in there, and the column will be name, and we're going to enter a name, Ola, enter, and show collections. We have collection 1, and what we want to do is we want to get what's in collection 1. So db dot collection 1 dot find, and we have id, which is automatically created for us, and we have name Ola. And another function is find.pretty. It's not going to make a difference here, but if your query is really long, it arranges them in a pretty looking way. So that is that done. Now we can shut down our server. The next part is to install the Erlang drivers and the Bison Erlang drivers. So first thing we do is we navigate to the Erlang directory. So C program files, Erlang, and here we have the Erlang folder. And what we want to do is we want to drag the MongoDB Erlang and Bison Erlang folders inside the lib folder, because I already have them already. So just override, click yes, replace everything. And if you go to Bison Erlang, you want to go to source, you want to compile it. So we compile them, that's it, done. Let's copy away the beam codes, Control X, and we're going to the ebin and we paste them here since I already have them. Replace, and also Mongo, if you can find that. Same thing, source, right click, compile. Everything is compiled. We'll copy the bin files into the ebin folder. Control paste, replace everything, and that is that done. So now we've installed MongoDB and the Erlang drivers needed to run MongoDB. The next part is we have to set up a new configuration files for our web application project. So the next thing we do now is to edit the bus config file. So we open it, view in Notepad. Right here it's a little bit hard to read, so what I'm going to do is simply just clear everything off. So the first thing we want to start with two straight brackets, and in here the first tuple we want contains the bus configuration items, and then we have two more square brackets and a curly bracket to just end it. The second part is simply our application configuration. So the name of our application is hello world, comma, and we're going to have two square brackets there as well, and one curly braces to just finish it off. And we don't need to put a comma there, just on the first one. In the bus configuration, we want to set the path to Chicago bus, and mine as, so we have to call path, comma, the path is, next thing is applications, name of application hello world. Oops. Next part is assume locale, and we want to set that as en for English. Now our database information, so db host, we want it to be localhost. DB port, I'm going to use the MongoDB port, which is 27017. Next is DB adapter, yeah, and we want to use MongoDB, followed by the database name, so db underscore database name, database, and we want to call it let's see, people list db, people list database. And also this is specifically for MongoDB only, which is going to be db write mode and read mode. So write mode is going to be safe db read underscore mode is going to be master. I'll attach a link below that gives more details regarding safe and master read and write. And the next one is DB shard mode. DB shard models. So all the models we're going to use, and I'm going to create a model later on called person. So person. The next part is basically server information. So port, we're going to use the same port we always use, 8001. The next thing is the server we're going to use, and we're going to use Moshi Web. And next is sessions. So session information. So session. Right now session isn't enabled, so but it's good to put the information there for later on. So session adapt mock, which is just memory, I believe. Next part is session key. So this is going to be running in memory. Session key will be underscore session. Next will be section expiration there. Oops. Session exp time. Third, what we want is a dummy, which we don't have to keep track of commas. So dummy, put on a new line, dummy. Finally, the log directory. So log underscore dir. It's going to look for a folder called log. And that is it for this little area here. So we save. Now we have to just fill up our application information. So path to our application, comma, because it's going to be in the same directory, dash dash, to string, slash hello world. Base URL. It's going to be one single slash and another dummy. So we just copy and paste this. Remember, you don't need a comma for the last item, same as here. And we save it, and hopefully everything is going to go according to plan. I made a little mistake here, so let's just get rid of this. It's an integer, not a string, and we save. First thing we want to do is command prompt start Mongo. So we have the MongoDB server running. Another command prompt is basically to, let's see, rebar. Oops, want to open it here. Just close this. And want rebar compile. Hopefully yes, so that's perfect. Now next part is start server, and we have everything running, and we've opened a port to our MongoDB server. So everything is running fine. Let's see if our database has been created yet. So we're going to the MongoDB directory and the Mongo data, and not yet for the moment. We only have test UXDB, which was the first test we did. So now let's try insert something into our MongoDB server using Chicago Bus web application. Before we proceed any further, it's better to check our current web application progress. So we open our web browser while the MongoDB server is running and the web application server is also running. So we go to 127.0.0.1 and port 8001, and we have our application at the moment, home, about. Go back to home, we test, and we say have our JavaScript running as well. We can also check out the MongoDB server information by going to 127.0.0.1 slash 2, let me just double check, 28017, 28017, and this will give us all the information regarding the MongoDB server. The next step is to create an object we're going to insert into our database. So we go to source, we go to the model folder, and we create a new file called person, and we're going to change the extension to ERL, which is Erlang extension. Next step is to edit it. The first thing is to write the module with a file name, which is person, which is the object we want to create, and the next part is to create the object property, which is ID, name, surname, and age, and then close it down with a period. The next part is just to compile and export all. And we save, and that's that. The next thing we need to change is the route. We'll go to private and open the route file. In the route file, we just want to get rid of this line that says / about, and we leave the controller index and action index as default. Save. We also want to change in the view. So in the view we have the base, index, and about. So first thing we do is to edit the base. In the base we simply want to get rid of the content of the href. Now we simply use tags for our URLs. So in the tag we're going to put URL controller equals index, and the action equals index. You see the reason why I want to use it this way later on. Oh, we don't want to forget the string. We simply do the same thing for the next line. So paste, controller is about, the action is about. Just make it a single quote. We just refresh our application, click on home, click on about, everything works perfectly fine. So we minimize. The next step is simply to add in a way of adding people into the database, deleting, viewing, editing, and so on. So the first thing we want to do is simply to create a way of adding people. First of all, in the index page we want to create a new folder which we're going to call templates, and we're just going to edit our index file. The first thing we want to do is we want to create a table which is going to contain a list of all the people in our database. The next thing we need is a link to the page that will allow us to add people into the database. And to do this, we want to first get a break line, and we want to add a link, href, just as before in the base file. I'll just copy this, paste, and what we want is to change the action. The controller is going to be the index controller, but the action, the action is going to be the add action, and then we change the name to add. Save, and I think there was a mistake here as well. Save. So now let's just finish creating our table. We need the 3 table headers, tr. We need to put the name, surname, and age. Now we need to write an if template. If people, so if people exist in the database, else if people do not exist in our database, if we have people collection or not. And if. Now inside the if, loop through each person in the people collection. So for person in people, and let's end our for loop. So for each person, tr. So we want to display the following information. Now we need to create td person dot name, display the person's name, copy paste for surname and age. So surname, age. And if nothing is in here, we basically just want to show an empty information. So tr, oops, wrong place. And we're just going to put a column span. So now that is that done. And finally, with the view, we want to create the template. We create the add.html file. So add html, and then oops, and inside the templates we're going to create the form, and we're going to call the form people add form.html. Basically, through the index you'll be able to call add, which is going to redirect us to the people add form. So let's just drop add in here. Inside add, we're basically just going to first of all extend to the base.html and create a block, the block which is going to basically contain our content, and end block. Within this we're going to have an include, index / templates / people add form.html. With, we want to set the form title to add people, add person, add a person. And also we want to set the form action just empty for the moment. And now that is the add.html completed. Now let's drag in the add people form. Here we simply create a simple form and close form. inside the form, first of all we have to set the method to a post method, and the action equals action form. Let's create a default one, default if none empty, and let's not forget single quotes. So we have the post and the action we want to take when we select the post. Now we need to create field set, legend, and the inputs. And finally also the submit. So let's fill out the field set. First of all, legend, form title, so add a person. Now paragraphs, the name, input, name equals name, ID equals person name, value, person.name, just copy this, default if not none empty, that's the name done. Now we need the surname and age. Now we have that finished. So now we've completed creating our views, which are the base, index, add, and people. And finally we move on to Erlang coding, and here we're going to create the post and the get methods. So what we do is we load up the index controller, in the index controller we have the index up here, and this is the get method, and we want to add in an extra field in our get method, which is people. So if you look at the index, we have people here, so we need to add something in there. So first thing we want to do is we want to query the database and find every person in the people collection. So people, create a variable called people equals boss underscore db find person comma empty. So find every person, and now we simply just display it. So people, and that is all. we save. The next part is we're calling the add post and get. So add get. As you can see in the index, we have the add here, and the controller is the index controller. So we go back to our index controller. So in the add, we need to send OK. Tuple hello, and we're going to say add hello. Actually, it's better if we index add, and also the title would be add, and that is that. And finally, okay, I don't need to copy and paste that. Oh, maybe I do. Finally, the post method of the add. So okay, so in the post method we change get to post, and in the post method we want to be able to get in the values the user have entered into the name, surname, and age inputs text box. And to do this, we simply create a variable called person equals person new. So we're creating a new object ID, which will be automatically generated for us. But if we look at the model, so source model, this is critical that you add in the ID field there, because if you don't, you're going to get plenty of errors. And now we need to request for those values post parameters param name, and we copy and paste this for surname and age, surname age. So we just change this to age, this to surname, and we create another variable called save equals person save. And now we want to create a case statement. So case save of if everything goes okay, new save. We want to redirect the user to the index page, so redirect. Redirect. Set the controller, so redirect to controller index. And set the action index. So we're redirecting everyone back to the default home page. The next part is in case if we get an error, I still want to redirect people into the I want to redirect everyone to the home page. Error, and we just copy and paste this for the sake of time. Maybe in the next tutorial we might change this up a little bit, but I'm having a feeling this tutorial is getting a wee bit too long. So that's that. And so before we complete and test everything, let's just look through our application, make sure everything is right. And yeah, add to save, and let's just tidy things back up again. So I'm just basically looking through all the codes again, and everything seems fine to me. We save, we minimize, and make sure your current server is all closed. So let's start Mongo. Mongo started. Open command here. Stat, rebar, compile, and start server. And everything is running fine. So let's just minimize this. No errors so far. We open the web browser. And right here, as you can see, we have home and we have about. And as you can see, this is our table and it's empty at the moment. Now let's try adding something into it. First name Ola, and age is 20, and we'll submit person. And as you can see, it's now added into the database. Let's try adding someone else. Let's see, John Doe, 99, and one more person, plus pure ISO 89, submit. Now we have the list there. Now let's change the location to about and back to home, and the data is still there. Let's close it down, and let's close down our server and the command prompt, and let's close the MongoDB database. Now let's just restart to make sure our data are still persistent. They're still located on the database, and even if we turn it off, we can still get it back. So start Mongo, and open command here, rebar, compile, and also start server. Make sure no server is running or else it's going to cause an error. So server started. Let's go back to our web application, and 127.0.1 8001, and we still have our data. That concludes our tutorial for today. In the next tutorial, I'll see if I can add more functionalities to our web application. See you next time.